Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats, folks, for your daily live updates. Get the most out of today's episode by participating in the chat. Make sure you ask some questions, be part of the conversation, have a bit of fun, grab a coffee or a tea, take some notes, and get ready to start your day, folks. Quick few housekeeping rules, though. No spamming, no advertising or self-promotion in the chat. That's not on. Be kind and respectful to everyone when participating. And most of all, have a good time. Real estate investing can be your biggest asset. It also can be your most expensive asset when it comes to getting it right or getting it wrong, folks. It can be time-consuming, stressful, and that's why here at Positive, we have what's called a 6-star team, a full-service team that provides integrated wealth and property investing solutions and services simply designed to help you progress towards your goal of passive income through your property portfolio, folks. Make sure you check out our other podcasts on the Positive Mentor Network. Not only is there Wealth Coffee Chats, there's the Urban Property Investor. Drops every Wednesday with straight talking investing strategies and lessons with Sam Saggers. Property Investor Tales. This is where our clients, you guys, share real life stories from property investing, hosted by some of our advisors and strategists. And that's done every fortnight, dropping every Monday. Wealth, Wine and Wisdom, folks, that debriefs the week that was in the world of finance and property, hosted by yours truly, Jason Witten and Andy Fenton on Fridays. Hey, good morning, folks.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat.
Hope you're well, folks, wherever you are.
There it is, team. Morning. Morning, wherever you're tuning in from today.
Early bird gets the worm, they say. Here at Positive, we offer a 6-star team. It's a team that help you at every stage of your wealth creation journey.
Alrighty, good day everybody. Good morning. My name is Brennan Latimer, and I've got the privilege of taking today's Wealth Coffee Chat, grabbing bull by the horns and running with it, and filling in for Jason. I think actually Cass was set to do today, but he's not able to make it. So here I am. I've got my coffee in hand, so I made sure that it was very much doing the real thing. But yeah, it's a pleasure to be here and have a bit of a casual chat with you all. I'd love to make this as casual as possible. Instead of me just rambling, love to hear what people have to say or any questions. So make sure you check out where you can write some commentary or some questions in the chat. And I'll try and be as super reactive to those messages as possible. So basically today I wanted to talk about, well, first of all, I'll give you a bit of an intro into me. So my name is Brennan Latimer. I've been with the business now across the Positive Collective business for 15 years now, believe it or not. I started out, I did like economics bachelor at UTS in Sydney, and in my final year there, I always liked property. Final year there, I met Sam Saggers and started doing some work with him in the acquisitions and listings side of the business, and then grew into doing some sales stuff, and then grew into doing more bigger listings. And now I'm actually business partners with Sam and Jason and another gentleman, Owen Moore, who many of you might know, in our R&W Plus business. So I'm one of the directors and owners of the R&W Plus business. I'm based out of Sydney, but our team has really grown over the last near decade. We've got people across Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. And we do new project sales like what Positive Real Estate does, helping people buy some really good real estate. But we also have the property management that you guys are probably be aware of if you're working with any of our team, where we do property management across Melbourne and Brisbane. And we've got about 1,300 properties under management as well, and just expanding into Canberra at the moment as well, which is really exciting. So yeah, look, I've been around for a long time. I know all the ins and outs of the business, and I've invested in real estate myself. I've got my house here in Sydney where I'm sitting right now, Northern Beaches, and I've got 2 townhouses in Newcastle, and I'm just doing a deal right now involving a home and land in Brisbane as well, expanding my portfolio, which I'm really excited about too. So very fond of the Brisbane marketplace, which I know you hear Sam and Jason and your coaches and sales team talk about often. But today I wanted to talk about something that in my world is always a challenge, especially in the last few years, and that is like supply. I want to talk about supply, and I know it might be beating in the same drum, or it's a rhetoric you've heard before, but it is so poignant to discuss right now with context from a property investor's perspective, to really understand what is going on, what it's going to look like in the future, and why it's timely to really be taking property investing quite serious right now. And it's actually a little bit scary. It's talking about, hey, there's no supply, whatever, get into the market. It's actually a very, very serious topic, because the future can look quite grim depending upon which way you look at it. So in conjunction with supply, I want to talk about the actual cost to build metrics, and why, and give you guys a little bit of insight into what a developer goes through, and why these new products can come out at the price they are, which sometimes renders some projects useless. And that, again, hinders supply. So if you guys don't know, myself, Sam, Jason, and Owen, we're in partnership in our R&W Plus business. We also do some boutique developments together. We're up to our 7th or 8th boutique development in the Brisbane marketplace, where we've done either ourselves or a joint venture with another trusted person. And so we know what's going on in the development space, and running the feasibilities and the costs to get townhouses out of the ground, and which areas don't work and why. So it's really interesting to be on that side of things, as well as the sales, to understand why there is a lack of supply coming out from the cost perspective, in amongst other things as well. But I was thinking about this, and I've just some really, really staggering sort of numbers for people to consider, because I love to break it down to just really think about what it means in your sort of local area or in your city, right? So CBRE Economics, they were saying that Australia's population growth between mid-23 to mid-25, so 3 years, 23, 24, 25, is going to be about 1.1 million more people. And we're on track to hit that by the middle of this year. Now, if you think about the average household housing 2.4 people, so we're talking about dwellings here, that's a combination of units, townhouses, and houses. So the average blended across those property types, they're talking about a number of about 2.4. In some markets where it's a little bit more dense, you might be at 2.2, some are at like 2.6 or closer to 3, but the blended average, let's just say 2.4. What that means is that's about 450 dwellings need to be built and created to house those 1.1 million permanent new people in the country. Okay. Now I break that down even further. 450,000 over those 3 years, easy maths, 150,000 new dwellings a year. But then what I thought's really interesting, breaking that down, let's just think about what 150,000 new dwellings looks like across our combined capital cities. Now, I've just targeted the cities as a point of reference. Of course, like regional areas will have some supply, but it pales in comparison to our capital cities. So 150,000 broken down looks something like 10,000 dwellings in South Australia, in Adelaide, 20,000 in Perth, 30,000 in like Brisbane, Southeast Queensland, 45,000 across New South Wales, 45,000 across Victoria. So I know many of you are in different areas around the country this morning. I'm in Sydney. I do a lot of work across Brisbane and Melbourne, predominantly a lot of travel at least once a month to those locations. And I can tell you from my knowledge of just sheer seeing it with my eyeballs, observation science, and working in the industry, I think we could all agree that we're not seeing every single year 45,000 new dwellings pop out in Sydney, 45,000 new dwellings pop out in Melbourne. That's 450 blocks of 100 apartments. Okay. I think everyone could agree that we're not seeing that come to light at the moment. And that's why all you're hearing in the media today is about rental issues, supply issues. What's the government going to do to help make the Australian dream of owning a property become more of an easier reality? And sadly, no one has the real answer. And there's some harsh things that have to happen to be able to cater for more supply. Now, it's always interesting. I have this conversation. People like, you're a real estate agent, you want more real estate to come out and you do all that. But it's, I've got 2 young daughters. And when you actually think about it, it's a little bit concerning to think about the 10 or 20 year future for Australia and what that might mean for our kids and being able to get into the property market. If we think that, falling short of 10, 20, 30,000 dwellings every single year for the next 10 years happens, some really, really drastic things are going to have to come into play. We're either going to turn off the tap for people coming to the country, which absolutely smashes the economy, or we have to build a lot more real estate. And if it can't happen in the private sector, you've got to think about in 10 years' time, we might be living in a world where like the government really has to step in and build real estate to just house people. And that's where things can get a little bit weird. It's not something we're very used to here in Australia as well. So, I'm very interested in this because, like I said, my daughters 10, 20 years time when they looking at in their mid 20s looking to buy some real estate, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. And that's where so many people now have that conversation about, the only way that we're going to have people buying real estate in the future is with the hand down of generational wealth, which is, as we know, over the next decade, the biggest hand down of generational wealth, trillions of dollars being handed down in Australia to the next generation, which ultimately in some way, shape or form pumps back into the real estate market. And look, that's where you can have social issues in themselves again, as already in the future, where there's that wealth just over here by itself, siloed in perpetual oscillation in that top end of society. And you get that greater divide between the wealthier and the not so wealthy. And that's again, a social issue to think about from the government perspective of how we can create a bit more of an even playing field to get more people in the real estate market. So when you hear about supply, don't just think it's, we're going to house people, there's too many people. It's a real issue that needs to be tackled because it can lead to a pretty bleak future if we don't get things right now. And go and just type in Australia supply shortfall. You'll see that they are not hitting the numbers that they've talked about needing, and they're not going to hit it. Even if the last 3 years has been a lot of people coming in, it'll slow down to a bit more of a normality and get closer to like a 10, 20-year average, and we still won't be hitting those numbers. And there's so many reasons why, the supply not coming through to the marketplace is on so many levels. A government-based level, it's on a planning local level, a state-based level, a funding level with private and major lenders, and then all the way down to a valuer doing a valuation on property, making it come in heinously low so that developers know that the market is not supportive of the new real estate, so they don't develop. Do you know what I mean? So there's so many levels to this supply issue. And sadly, right now, none of them are talking or cohesive in any way, and we're not going to close that gap. And I got a really interesting example. Like Moreton Bay, for instance, has brought out some new regulations in their development control planning north of Brisbane, Moreton Bay, one of the local government areas, and making it dual income properties, which you can see popping up here and there. There's always a number of them in a few estates. They've now made it really challenging for those to happen, which are a great way to bring some more supply and of housing into a housing market which doesn't support unit supply, right? And now what they've done is they've made changes so that their setbacks from the boundaries have to be greater, and the land size has to be greater, and the dwelling size has to be greater. So all of a sudden, you used to be able to do a 3-bed plus a 2-bed for $900,000. Now the land size has to be bigger, so the cost goes up. Now the dwelling size has to be bigger, so the cost goes up. All of a sudden, you've got a property that for someone to buy doesn't necessarily make any sense. It's overcapitalizing and it doesn't necessarily stack. Ergo, you've just stunted a bit more supply to the market. Now, these sorts of things are happening on every level, every day, in all areas. And what I'm trying to say is it's just one of the many facets and levels to the supply constraint that we've got going at the moment. And that brings me to another part of this conversation, which is about construction cost increase. You've heard it all before. Construction costs are up. It's been happening ever since COVID. Supply metrics, and maybe some people were gouging. I personally believe some people were gouging off the back of what was happening during supply constraints. We still have costs going up, but a much more nominal rate today compared to the peak of COVID issues. And basically, we're doing a townhouse development ourselves north of Brisbane and Albany Creek, 34 strata title townhouses. And I can tell you that just to get those townhouses built, just the built with the civils component and the build component, you're north of $500,000 to have that dwelling created here on planet Earth. Now you need to add on commissions, you need to add on consultants fees, you need to add on the cost of that site, you need to add on interest costs and a myriad of other things. And all of a sudden, that property to actually work for a developer has to be $900,000 for that townhouse, 15, 16 Ks north of Brisbane. Now, because of that cost on that property to be built, that's where the real defining factor lies. And what's really interesting, and the problem we've got at the moment, is that's a similar sort of cost that you'll be looking at whether you go 15 kilometers out or 50 kilometers out. So the problem with that is you need to be 50 kilometers out and putting out a $900,000 townhouse. It doesn't work. And that council in that area only allows townhouses or housing. So you can't get units there. So it's either townhousing to create supply, which doesn't stack because of the costs, so that's ignored, or then it's the housing. And then the housing, you can't do dual key because of changing metrics there, or it's more challenging anyway. So if you can see what I'm trying to create here, the many levels to things to make it a bit of a challenge. I've got another good example. Owen and I, we were under due diligence on a site in Narangba, just north of Brisbane. We were hoping to yield about 35 land lots from this subdivision. And if that didn't work, we always said, well, let's just go with that. If that doesn't work, we'll review townhouses here instead to do as a development. It didn't stack for land. The yield dropped down to about 27 land lots. So it didn't stack for land because of some environmental protection buffer around the site. We then said, well, let's take a look at townhouses, did some numbers, and we were going to have to be putting out the townhouses in that marketplace just to make $1. Those townhouses were going to have to be about $850,000, which doesn't work. You would have no valuation support and no general market support, because in that same area right now, you can go and buy 350, 400 square meters of land and build a nice 180, 200 square meter home for $800,000, $850,000. So the townhouse concept didn't stack. So if you can see what I mean, that pocket right there has just been isolated from a supply perspective until metrics change and support that pricing, or build costs absolutely stabilize over the next few years, and that $800,000, $850,000 price is supported. Or, of course, much rare happening, the build costs go down and you can put out a townhouse at a cheaper price point, which I don't see happening anytime soon. Historically speaking, over the last few decades, when you look at the building indices, costs have come backwards only a few times after really, really significant spikes. That might happen if we start to get some easing and some more trades come through to become a lot more competitive than it is now. But I don't see it happening in the next short or medium term, basically, as well. So when you break it down to this supply issue, A, it's a problem. B, there's no easy fix. C, it's happening everywhere. And really, it's so important to understand the many, many, many levels that make up this supply issue, basically. So yeah, it's a really interesting topic. I think that the government needs to sort of step in on all levels, all the way down to local councils, allowing for more suitable development. More sort of small satellite precincts in good locations that are moderately close to rail or main arterial networks, but not only for housing. Those satellite precincts need to also support, maybe low set unit apartment complexes as well. Something tasteful to create a bit of a village atmosphere and allow for more supply to get pushed to areas where there's going to be some affordability and where we can get some supply. So really, really interesting time at play right now, but bringing it all back to us as investors, definitely I think that the landscape in 5 or 10 years' time is only going to be more challenging to enter the marketplace in an affordable context. I think the price of a house and land that the team's going to show you today simply cannot be the same price in 6 or 12 months' time. It just can't. Ausbuild, one of the biggest builders in the country, just had another 1% increase this quarter. Other builders are telling me there's one looming. We know that the trades have sort of settled, but are still going up a little bit. There's some major infrastructure works in some locations draining a lot of that trade base, so that they are the ones calling the shots still. So the future, there's no solution right now. And what it means, it's an unfortunate issue if we don't fix it completely. But what it means for us as investors is it is something that we can capitalize on to get into the market even when you can, to make sure you're getting that best kind of price as well, basically. So really interesting times. I just want to know if anyone to the chat on the right-hand side of your box, sling in some questions or any commentary there. I'd love to hear what you've got to say. But yeah, you're probably sick of my voice now. A bit of a ramble for nearly 20 minutes about supply. I'm pretty passionate about it. It's what we talk about all day, every day, and living and breathing it from a sales perspective and a development perspective. And it is really, really challenging. Like lots of developers that we're talking to are in a space where they've got sites and they want to put out some apartments, very tasteful, great developers, and they're just like, I can't. The apartment has to be 850,000, and the valuations are only supported at 700,000. And again, there are many levels to it. That developer doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want the heartache, and he knows the market's just not there for it. So he's playing a bit of a waiting game. And as a developer, it used to be one of the most important things as a developer used to be about the site purchase. It was all about the site purchase. You had to get the price right there. What you paid per box meant what the outcome of the development was going to be. And now it's almost obsolete. You basically really, whether you pay 50,000 a box or 100,000 a box, is neither here nor there. It's all about that market metric and action cost being so high. It's about whether the market is going to support it or not, basically. Donna, morning, Donna. Sales yet in Albany Creek? No. So our Albany Creek project, to give an example, that's 34 strata title townhouses. We have started construction there, all signed up from the build perspective, civils perspective, design perspective. We've got civils construction starting, and we've got built form, the townhouses starting construction in probably April. And then we are commencing a sales campaign before the end of March, hopefully, as well. We've got a lot of pent-up demand for that. Again, not much supply in the market, so a lot of the groups we do works with, so Positive Real Estate will have a look at that listing as well. So there'll be like 4-bedroom townhouses there for, from $900,000 or something like that, roughly, to give you an idea. So yeah, we're in the market looking to try and find many of those where we can. We always love to do 1 to 2 developments a year and approach the clients about getting involved from a capital and investment perspective. But our trouble is finding sites that stack. And that, again, is why you're seeing not much of that supply come through the market. But yeah, look, I hope it was a bit of beneficial insight for you this morning. As investors, we need to understand this stuff, what it means for us, and essentially how we can place ourselves to be in the best position to maximize our gains now. Unfortunately, having this conversation again in 10 years' time might not be as pretty, and harder and harder and harder to get in. So yeah, really interesting to understand what's going on. I hope that helps you understand when you see a media article now about the struggles of supply. It can give you a little bit more background and context as to what it really means from a valuation level, a planning level, a funding level, and the cost to construct level as well. But if there's no more questions, I will let everybody go. It's been great to host this morning. I'll be back soon, no doubt. But make sure you guys chat with your team and see what's out there in the market. All the best, guys. Look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thanks for watching another episode of Wealth Coffee Chat, folks. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a thing when we go live. Portfolio and investing game, folks, with Wealth Coffee Chats live every morning at 8:10 each weekday. Make sure you join us. Previous episodes are also available wherever you get your podcasts, folks, as well as our other podcasts from the 6 Star team here at positivementor.com.au.